I have been tremendously blessed to have the Reverend Dr. Teresa Fry Brown as my mentor. I affectionately call her my shero on all of my social media accounts at all times. What I have loved about having Dr. Fry Brown as my mentor is because is that I constantly find safe space. Even when whatever I'm going to say or do is offensive, I know it's safe with her. And I can be known to be quite offensive at times, and so we're still working on that. But what I do know is that really, you know how people say there are no stupid questions, and then you hear a question and you're like, now that was a stupid question. I take pride, and I'm excited that I know that I can go to her with any question, even if it can be considered stupid. She'll break it down for me to understand it. Might not always agree with where I am with particular things, but allows me to still be authentically myself or discover whoever Dominique is becoming at the time. And so I appreciate having a mentor that gives me the safe space to do and be myself. And she doesn't seek to replicate herself in me. So that's what I mean by letting, Dominique, this is who you are. You don't have to be me, do it the way I would do it. I want you to do it the way God has given it to you to do it.
So I think that what becomes critically important is oftentimes people think mentors are about clone programs. And I travel around the world and people will come up and I will preach or teach and they'll say, I need you to be the mentor. I believe that God sends people to be in mentor-mentee relationships for a season and for a particular purpose, that we have mentors for different aspects of our lives, not one person. And so you're not supposed to be making many me's when you're in a mentor-mentee relationship. It has to be based on trust, and it doesn't always start off well. And you're not always in sync. When Reverend Robinson came to Candler, she did not like me. And the first year, she didn't speak to me. And this becomes really important about developing this relationship that now is so wonderful, in that some people think at first sight you're going to just, this is the person I'm supposed to be working with, but there's something that you see in another person that sometimes is a reflection of self. And sometimes that causes some disquieting kind of vibes in your system. And so I think because having been preaching since she was 13 and been in the limelight a lot, it was hard. It's hard sometimes for people to see someone else that's in a space they might want to be in eventually. And so I wasn't real pressed because I have a lot of students and a lot of people. And so I kept it moving. And I just kept it moving. And I think that we had to come to a grounding away from the crowds and talk about just life and about experience, and to begin to trust each other enough to share, because I am that introvert she talked about. I could not be bothered with people unless I'm teaching or preaching. I would rather be in my house with books and writing, or in my office by myself. So when I let someone in my space, it's because God said, let them in my space. There's a public space and a private space. Mentors and mentees enter a private space where confidentiality is paramount, where you don't tell everything that goes on. And there's a rule that only certain people are invited into my house where I live, and this house. And God instructed me after that, in that second year, to invite this young woman into my house. And that was the beginning of a mentor-mentee relationship, because too often people want to be with someone that they think has a spotlight so it can shine on them too, but they don't do any work to get there. And you have to do work to get in some spaces. You have to put in some sweat equity to do some things. You can't just start out preaching and think you're going to get 5,000 people to hit you up on your account, right? You have to work through some things. And so mentors help mentees, but mentees also help mentors. And so as the disciplino, which means to teach and to learn, that in Latin, that's what a disciple is. You teach and learn. So if you're in a relationship with someone, where you're not learning from them and you're not teaching them, then that's trash and you need to run the other direction because you'll wind up abusing each other. And so anyway, let me go. We're supposed to have a conversation right now, aren't we? I have to remember where I am because my students know that I can go off the rails, right? The whole group. So that began that way. And then I also trusted Dominique with my family. Sometimes people have these mentor-mentee relationships where it's just the two of them. But I'm an extension of a family. And so she became part of my extended family. So I trust her with family stuff too. So when my husband was sick and dying, Dominique was able to come and be with me. So it wasn't just talking about preaching. It wasn't just talking about education. It was talking about life. Because if your mentor does not help you navigate life and they just want you to be their armor bearer, then you need to run the other way. That's what I'm supposed to be doing? Okay. Okay, so go ahead. Jump in, because I'll go too far.
I want to be your armor bearer.
She knows I don't like armor bearers. That's the other thing. We joke a lot, but I don't like armor bearers. I think I can carry my own stuff, because I work for it. And I always want to know where my stuff is, because you can't trust everybody to pray for you. You can't trust everybody to touch holy things. You know what I'm saying? It says, who shall ascend to the hill? They that have clean hands and a pure heart, and not everybody got clean hands. So I just carry my own stuff. Y'all got me? All right, go ahead.
I don't even know what to say.
I paid for it, so I might as well carry it, right? Go ahead.
Developing a relationship definitely takes, it requires humility. And to be very honest, I dislike Dr. T for nothing Dr. T did, actually. We were at an AME Zion function, and people that were supposed to attend my session went to her session instead. She didn't do anything. She didn't even speak to me. I just had an attitude that the people that I came with didn't come to my session. That was that young arrogance. And so when they would come, and then they bought her book back to me. I was like, wait a minute now, They're like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be your professor in seminary. This is the book she wrote. We had her sign it for you. And I was like, take that book. I don't, just in my own, like, where were you? Instead of trying to figure out really what they were doing, they were really trying to help me to be connected to somebody that could help me navigate not just ministry, but life, because they saw something in the both of us that I was too arrogant to see because I thought I had it. And a lot of times, young preachers just think because you can close out a sermon or you can develop a sermon, you have it. You got to recognize that having a mentor is beyond the pulpit. You need somebody who can help you navigate life. They've been through it. They've experienced it. And so why trip over something somebody else already knows it's already in place? You know what I'm saying? And so it took my first year of seeing other students who had been in a relationship with Dr. Fry Brown, what was going on in their life. And I actually, during that summer, read her book and sent an email of apology for the way I had treated her and not spoken to her. And really was like, I hope she responds, because I was rude all year long. She would walk down the hallway. I wouldn't even look in her direction. I wouldn't even speak. And if anybody's been at Candler, she wears clothes that float. So I used to think she was gliding on air. I'm like, this teacher, she just walking through, and then she would walk through the hallways. People would part, be like the Red Sea and everything. And so, I would be like, I'm not talking to her, things like that. And so I was just grateful that after reading her book, learning more about who she was, when I reached out, that she was willing to accept my apology, to see past my arrogance, to see past the issues I had. Because be honest, like I said, it wasn't even about Dr. Farber. I was mad I was in seminary. I wanted to go to law school. I didn't even want to go to seminary. I came to Emory because they had a dual degree, and then they said, you got to go to seminary first. And I was like, what? And so when you realize you got your own issues, sometimes your own baggage prevents you from connecting to people who can really be a blessing in your life. And so that baggage weighs you down from being just blessed by somebody's presence. And so I was grateful that she accepted my apology, allowed me to come in. Her daughter is like cousin, sister. We do everything together. And to be trusted with somebody's personal space and personal business is a privilege. And we've talked in our own circles about how preachers can't be trusted. Right? About colleagues you can't share everything with. where we do a good job of putting on a facade like everything's okay, because that's the Facebook culture, right? We just want everybody to like what's happening. There are a lot of things going on, and I've been grateful that not only has she trusted me with her personal life, but she's been able to see me in my rawest, most hurt spaces and still build me up. Days I wanted to walk away from the ministry completely, drop out of seminary, laying on her floor in her office, weave messed up, nails chipped, no money to eat. I'm talking about, she was like, look, pick yourself up, get you a manicure, and meet me at the house to get a sandwich. We don't have time for this because there's a calling on your life. And you need a mentor who can speak your language, because you can't be nice to me all the time. I need tough love. I know I'm the person that needs tough love. And so,
Yes.
oh,
Language becomes important.
language.
The other thing is that I know that some of us are grand preachers and potentates and everything else, but you have to talk people's language. And it's not always talking about Jesus. Jesus doesn't need my PR agency. Jesus got his own. And so sometimes you have to go to we talk about preaching in the vernacular. Mentors and mentees have a vernacular. So sometime I cuss. I did
Hallelujah.
not forget the words when I was called into ministry. I can spell them in Latin and Greek and German, but I have forgotten nothing. And so sometimes mentors are not always saying, woo, 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 this is the way to do it. Sometimes you have to show because you can't tell. And sometimes you have to yell. I had mentors at some time when I was just being ignorant and backward and wanted to do things because everybody else was doing it, that pulled me up and talked to me in a language I needed at that time. Sometimes the language is silent, because sometimes when people are talking, I just listen. A mentor listens between the lines, between the tears, between the curse words, and can see down the road. I tell people as a mentor now that I'm 66 years old, and as a mentor right now to Dominique and about 4 other people, because I don't have 150 mentees, because that extends that I don't have that much energy. Not just because of Dominique, but I don't have that much energy. But I have a tweezer and alcohol and cotton ministry. I can talk to you as your mentor and tell you, if you do this, you're going to run through some glass. If you pay attention to me, you will not. But in case you need to do it on your own, I'm going to be on the other side with alcohol and tweezers to pull a glass out and not tell you I told you so, but to help you get to a healing space. Because mentors are not perfect and don't have all the answers. Mentors are still learning. Mentors are still living. Mentors are still establishing relationships, and they have to understand that although there are some things that I experienced because there weren't so many women preaching when I started, that does not mean those things went away. And you are not the first generation to encounter anything in preaching, as I was not the first one to encounter difficulties in preaching. You're not the first ones to people try to tell you how to dress when you preach. When I was going through the ordination process in the AME church, you were supposed to wear black. I don't like to wear black. Women were supposed to wear no nail polish, not have your hair done up, no makeup, right? You couldn't wear short things. You had to have pantyhose and all that other kind of stuff. And so I would wear wrap skirts, so when I sat down, I could show my knee when I got ready. And I wore what I wanted to wear because I paid for it, right? And my hair was long. And so because they told me to wear all black, I would wear red underwear because they wouldn't know, but I was feeling good on the inside. All right. And so when I hear, when we have these conversations about the rules of the church, there are ways to do your own rules, and you don't have to tell everybody what your rules are, because when you run your mouth a lot, they'll come in and check you on it. So you do some seditious kind of stuff. I grew up in the 60s, so I know how to do underground kind of rebellion stuff. And so that's what you do. You teach people how to navigate systems. The system is going to be there, but we opt in the system. So when I hear younger ministers say, I hate the church, well, you opted to be in. You could have gone and start your own thing if you'd wanted to follow the rules. The rules are there. Yes. And we have this conversation a lot, and every now and then when things are posted, I may call her up in the middle of the night and say, I'm gonna need you to take that down. And it's not because I didn't understand what she wrote. It's because I understand the system that she's trying to navigate. And until you get in a position of power in a system, you got to pay some dues. And sometimes the dues are you're gonna do some stuff that you don't want to do. So my job as a mentor is to see it for what it is, and to also to intervene when I can. I'll fight a battle if I think I'm supposed to fight it for you. That's what mentors do, because I can take the hit. So I can say some things to structures that Dominique can't say to structures, because my wounds are healed. I got scars to prove it. So you can't hurt it anymore because it's done, right? Some of them have faded away, but in order for her not to have to do it, I have to look ahead and look around and look behind. And that's what I think is critical about mentor relationship. It's not for me to have a big old group of people follow me thinking that carry me on the shoulder. That's not my thing. It's to make sure that she lives long enough that she can also mentor somebody. So I did this thing, and then I'm going to be quiet, I think. Probably not, but. So for me, a mentor relationship is like the cycle of the butterfly.
Talk.
Everybody want to be a butterfly because they look wonderful. But most of our life is spent in the chrysalis with all the slime in the enclosures and the moving back and forth as our bodies are being formed. That's where we stand. In the chrysalis is where you work your stuff out for ministry. In the chrysalis is where I work with my mentee. In the chrysalis is where you get the blood flowing and you get the changes and the colors start developing and you just feel constricted most of your life. In the chrysalis is where you work out your ministry, don't you see? When you come out of the chrysalis, that's where I am. But the job of the butterfly is to fly around for a little while, but all the butterfly is supposed to do is find another butterfly and make other butterflies and then die. So when you get to be a butterfly, your life is short. Look it up if you don't believe me. Mentors have short lives, but the mentee in the chrysalis is the one that's going to keep on developing to make sure that in the chrysalis you learn enough to be able to mentor somebody else. We there? Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want what I want to share is one of the things that I have truly been blessed by is that I don't have a mentor that feels like she had already arrived, that she allowed me to be a witness on the journey. And so to be able to watch Dr. Fryer Brown achieve a general officer position within the AME Zion Church, go through the campaign, go through the, I'm sorry, AME, I'm sorry, no Zion. General officer in the AME Church. Y'all saw the shade, right? All right. General officer in the AME Church, but to go through the rigors of the politics of the church, navigating a career, family, and allow me to just to witness it, to see if you ever feel like your desire is to do something, you need to see this journey and witness that it's not as pretty as people make it to be once they're in the position. And not just within the church, but also within the academy, becoming the bandy chair, allow me to just be a witness to sit in while she prepared for the interviews and prepared her packages, just to be able to have that access. You know, people say, I wish I was a fly on the wall. I was grateful to be the fly on the wall in that preparation process, because a lot of times we as young preachers, we think a particular position or a particular role in life is where we want to go, where we want to be. People are grooming you for that position, and you realize there's a lot of behind the scenes things that occur that are not pretty. And if you are not strong spiritually, or you don't have the person mentoring you through that, you never make it through the process to get to the position you think you're supposed to be in. So being able to have a mentor even now within these positions who still feels like she hasn't necessarily arrived, to continue to want to grow and push me to get beyond the level that she has gotten to, that's a blessing in a mentor who's, this is where you need to be. Where I am is the height of what you need to do in your journey. Nah, she continues to say, keep going. There's something greater and better in life in what you're doing.
This has been a rich conversation, and we appreciate being able to eavesdrop on this conversation between mentor and mentee as you all share some of your experiences. We want to make sure that we are able to have time for a few questions. If there are some from the audience, we have time for 2 or 3 questions. You can just stand up where you are and speak loudly. Sure.
I'll tell you how I found mentors. I didn't find mentors, they were sent to me. I never went up after preaching, hearing somebody preach or teach and say, I want you to be my mentor. I think that's intrusive. I just think it's intrusive, particularly because people are vulnerable when they finish preaching or teaching. I prayed, I said, God, I need somebody to help me this place, or this place. So it was along in conversations, or sometimes somebody would come to me and say, so-and-so talked to me about you. Can we talk? And then it kind of developed from that. And not everybody that was my mentor was in ministry. I think that you don't need all your mentors in ministry, and they don't all need to all be preachers. There need to be some people that know how to live without the oversight you have, and sometimes the performative nature of preaching. It's better to have someone who's not in that aspect of what you're doing. But they were sent to me. I really believe that. That's my own hermeneutic. God sent the people that were mentoring me. So they're male and female. Some are younger, some are older, but they were sent to me. And some for a season, some for maybe a week, some for 1 hour, some for 5 minutes, some for 15 years. Because it's like the gift of the Spirit is not some survey that you take. It says that God sends the Spirit when God wants the Spirit to be present. And it's for the edification of the community. So God sends people in my life to help me to do things to edify the community.
Sure.
Do you think it's possible to have too many mentors?
I think it is if you chose them. Or somebody ran up and said, I need to mentor you. I'm very suspect when people just run up and say, I can help. But that's probably my introverted nature, and I don't trust some people. You know, because some people have ulterior motives. And they would rather, some people have, I got to remember the age range in here. Some people have ulterior motives. I think that if you are prayerful, God will tell you where you need someone to walk with you. Okay? But I don't think everybody needs 75 mentors. It's kind of like at the school, when we talk about the schools of the prophet, not everybody was in the school of the prophet. That doesn't mean they wasn't a prophet. Some people God sends solitary, and they do their best work solitary. Other people have to be in a group in order to grow. So you have to ask God, which one am I supposed to do for this thing? Which one am I supposed to do for that thing, I think.
One more question.
Why am I answering all these questions?
Talking about the mutuality of mentor-mentee relationship. Are there ever, because we're not in the business of searching for clones or creating clones, and there are theological differences, public conviction differences, do mentors and mentees ever pay the cost of each other's convictions?
I have a mentor that I did not know I had for 20 years. Dr. Jeremiah Wright, when I started preaching, was out doing things and speaking on my behalf and opening doors for me, and I did not know it. But he paid for that because I was coming through when women weren't supposed to be doing things. Okay? Mentors are not always up in your face. Sometimes I'm real clear that Dr. Robinson pays for me being her mentor. Sometimes people get upset when they know that I'm her mentor. And so, yes, there is a cost. And there have been some other people. Prathia Hall was one of my first mentor, female minister mentor. And so then there was all this talk about, two women spending that much time talking together, they must be doing something else. And because people's minds are very, infinitesimal. They're very small, and so they can't process relationality. So yes, I think you can pay for that sometime. But if you're strong and understand why that person is there, it really doesn't matter. And as long as you're growing and they're growing, I don't think it matters, because people are on this jealousy train, and if they don't see why you are talking with that person, they're not going to understand, and it's not your job to explain a relationship to anybody but the person with whom you're in relationship with.
Dominique, I've got a question for you as we close. In the mentor-mentee relationship, we often talk about the responsibility of the mentor and the obligation of the mentor to the mentee, but we often don't talk about the other side. What are the obligations and the responsibilities to be a good mentee, and what have you found to be the things that you've had to commit to as a mentee to support your mentor?
First of all, I think that honesty has always been something that I needed to remain responsible for and to do in our relationship. If there's ever anything I either have questions about or don't understand, being able to have that honest conversation. But I don't want to say, I'm not going to say it sounds crazy. Sometimes I feel like I need to protect. When Uncle Frank was sick, when you know somebody's process and you know when they're super sharp, and when different things are happening, they're not at 100%. I felt like I needed to protect people from saying or doing things that could trigger Dr. Fry Brown from going a particular place emotionally that she may not have wanted to be in that setting. And not just protecting Dr. Fry Brown, I felt the same way about her husband, Uncle Frank, and my cousin, Veronica. And then I also feel like at times when I know other people are repeating her sermons and she's not around, that I need to report. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody talking about your stuff. But I feel like our responsibilities have been similar in protecting of each other's ministries, image. There are times where I've had to say you should take that post down at the same time. Being aware when we're in settings that I know there are particular persons who don't have her best interest at heart, to be there to intercept that. And to just continue, like I said, I think honesty is at the base of all of it, as far as my responsibility as being a mentee. But one of the things I constantly want to do and always try to do is to allow Dr. Fry Brown to know that she doesn't have to be Superwoman with me, because she has to be on every time she walks. She has to be Dr. Fry Brown. She has to be the general officer. She needs to be the bandy chair. She needs to be the professor. So when you're with Dominique, we secretly, like the cousins, and we call her Sweet Tea on the secret, we like that. When she can just be regular Sweet Tea, Dr. T, regular Teresa. When she's in the kitchen cooking and just chilling, to be able to say, "Are you okay?" So that constant check-in is not one-sided; it's both-sided. To just make sure to be able to see her face. And I'm so glad that she got an Apple device, because now her daughter and I were able, because she can tell you on the phone she's fine, but when you see somebody's face, you know better. And so just being able to be present so that she can be raw and real when she needs to be, get it back together before she goes back out in public. So I feel like that's been a part of my responsibility as a mentee.
Let's give a hearty round of applause and thanks to Dr. Fry Brown and Dr. Robinson.